The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're open line today, so the floor's yours. Lines are open. Whatever you want to talk about. Last Friday, David Ashford, MHK, was on Mannin Line. Lots and lots of questions that sadly we didn't get to. We just ran out of time. Mainly talking about housing. We didn't get to the fact he's chair of the Assisted Dying Committee, but I'll get through some of those questions today concerning... Well, he's North Douglas MHK at the moment, but of course, at one time he was Mayor of Douglas. He was a councillor in Douglas as well. Just a note in from Sarah, who just said, at the moment, Douglas, I think, looks tired, unpainted, unwashed. Cyclists are still here, there and everywhere. And in Strand Street the other day, I saw somebody skateboarding down the centre of a very busy street. It's a shame what Douglas has become. Thank you, Sarah. Wilf's first with us now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, I'm on about the Douglas Promenade again.
Okay.
I was just looking at last week's Manx Independent, and there's a nice picture there of the promenade with all the stones and what have you thrown out on the road. And I'm looking at it, and it's the same height as what the beach is. And I'm looking at some nice blue painted railings, which they say they're going to take away, and that's where they're going to put this wall. I'll just read you a little bit here.
Yeah.
It says, work will begin early next year on a project to raise the seawall on Douglas seafront. The new wall will replace the existing railings along a 500-metre stretch of the promenade from a point just south of the Douglas War Memorial on Harris Promenade to a point up opposite the Empress Hotel Central Promenade. Now, the way I'm looking at it, I'm looking from Ramsey End to the War Memorial, so I would say they've even got that wrong. That's running south. That's running from the War Memorial, running north, not south. So that's the first bit they've got wrong. Now, all that I'm looking at, there's very little seaweed there. Well, I can't see any seaweed. It's all good stone, good cobbles. And there's enough there to fill a big lorry, I would say, that's on the promenade. Instead of shoveling that back on the beach, that should be put in a lorry and took somewhere to be used. You take a 360 and set it over them railings and wagons, one after another, and fill them up. Now, how on earth can more rubble or more stones be flung on the promenade if they're not there? You see what I'm getting at? If they don't exist, if we've got a prom wall again, how can more be flung up? It's ridiculous. I mean, is it children in school that's just doing these sort of things, or what?
And a few people have
by intelligent people.
A few people have contacted me and said, look, if they're going to put a wall, and first of all, the beach doesn't start coming until after the War Memorial, just by where the old pier used to start. That's where the beach starts coming up. Now, if they're going to put a 3'11" wall all the way along there, surely the beach is just going to build up against the wall on the seaside.
Of course it is. And it says in this thing that it's going to cost 900,000. That's the estimate, so it could cost more than that. But what I'm saying is, all this good stone on the beach is all free to be taken away.
Yeah.
And it costs nothing, and there's no wall to be built, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. And it says there's another section. It will be built 3 foot 9 inches it is high, which will allow people to continue views out to sea from the promenade.
But not but not children, obviously.
That's what I can say. A child or a child in a pram or anything, or somebody in a wheelchair, they can't see up over the wall. The wall will be constructed to allow future increase in its height of up to 0.6, should it be necessary.
Yeah.
Well, that's even higher still.
Well, that's the proposal. They're saying there's a contingency of 0.6 of a metre to take it up, which means it'll be basically nearly 6 foot tall.
Exactly. And there's a bit on the end here that says, planning approval has also been granted to replace a further section of railings between the sea terminal and the TT Cafe with a new sea wall. The DOL or DOI, whatever you call them, will shortly go out to tender for this work. I mean, that's another 900,000. Tim Krukall has just been on the news now, saying about nobody's got the answer for the new dock we've got, costing whatever it was, 70-odd million, whatever it was.
Well, there's some.
And here we are going to throw some more away.
There's some real skeet going around. There's some real rumour going around this weekend about what the cost of that Liverpool landing terminal is going to actually be in the end, and when it's going to be open. Because at the moment, we haven't had a definitive date. Nobody's given us a date when they're actually going to aim for it to be open. As I mentioned weeks and weeks ago, Liverpool businessman, Manx businessman, no contest. They've been screwed to the floor right good. One thing will be absolutely guaranteed, Wilf, and guarantee this.
It's going to cost more.
Well, yeah, the cost won't go down.
That's it.
Thanks for calling, Wilf.
Okay, all right.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. We're on Mannin Line today with Dougie. Hi, Dougie.
Hi there, boy. I agree with the young man, what he says. But in my day, and I'm 93 years of age, the promenade always got stones on it. But they didn't have to take the railings away. Just put planks between the railings, and they were there for the winter. They'd be taken away for the summer. But also they've got diggers, they've got machines, they've got tractors and all sorts. It's not a big job to take them stones away, for God's sake. Who's making all these decisions?
Politicians.
Rubbish. Bloody rubbish. Well, they want to get down there and try and do something sometime. I mean, there was always stones there, but all they didn't have to build no wall. Just put planks, which was done by the Douglas Corporation, through the winter, on them railings, just strap them to the railings and take them away for the summer.
And where did they put the planks from to? Which bit of the prom were they on?
Along where they're talking now.
Oh, right, from
Castlemona
Avenue to the Empress.
Yeah. I mean, there was always stones coming over the prom. But okay, what's happened to all these stabbits we used to have?
Which one? Do you mean the groins that went out?
The groins. These big stabbits they built just the last few years.
Oh yeah, maybe that affected the waves coming in and out. Wilf said that now the wave doesn't sweep out, the tide doesn't sweep across the bay now. It just stops and dumps the sand there.
Yeah. But they just spend their money ad lib, and I mean, we're supposed to curtail what we're spending. The same, like he says, that Liverpool thing, the new sea terminal.
Yeah.
20 million. It's up now over 50 in it.
Oh, no, 75 million.
75 million.
75 million.
Where's that money coming from?
You and me.
Well, I don't agree with it. I don't agree, and they should talk to the public about all these ideas, these scatterbrained ideas they've got. Has anyone ever done a day's work like that? Imagine building them all on the promenade. All they've got to do is put planks up for the winter and take them down for the summer. and then get the machines you've got there, tractors, bulldozers, the lot, to take 3 foot. There was always a 3 foot drop from the promenade to the beach, or to the stones,
All right. Okay, thanks, Dougie.
Okay.
Good to hear from you.
Thanks, lad.
All right, 17 minutes past 12. Ian's on now. Hi, Ian.
Hello, Andy. How are you?
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah, what's on your mind?
Good. It's nice to hear some Manx voices on the radio there today. Hello?
Yeah. Hi, Ian.
Hello?
What's on your mind?
Can you hear me? I'd like to... I sent in a comment the other week there, Andy, and you said you couldn't read it out because it was only my views, but told me to give you a ring, so I thought I'd give you a ring instead.
Okay, yeah.
But, I've got 4 questions that I'd like to put to you if I could, and they're all regarding Mannin Line and Manx Radio. So the first one is, the other day there, you had a contributor on. He was an MD of Colas, I think, and he stated that 80% of the population are in favour of onshore wind farms. Now, I think that's an untruth that he's just told the general public, because I've asked everybody, and nobody I know has been asked. So I don't know where he's got his 80% of the population wanting wind farms on Ireland from. And is he going to come on and correct that statement?
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I think he's, as far as I can remember, he said a survey been done and 80% of people approved of wind farms.
Oh, no, I don't think there was a survey. I don't think he mentioned the words. But anyway, okay. So if we can get confirmation on whether it was and how many people, I mean, they were asking 100 people. We need to ask. This is the part of I've been sending messages in. It's all over people all year. We need a referendum on this net zero. And this is a case in point. The second one is, Andy, does Manx Radio do any due diligence on when somebody sends in an advert? Do Manx Radio do any due diligence on false advertising?
It depends what you mean, but do you mean a commercial, a paid-for commercial?
Yeah.
Yes, as far as I know, not my department, but I'm assured that they do.
All summer we've had the Water Board, or whatever they're called now, we've had them on all summer, saying year on year we are experiencing more and more problems due to climate change, right? So that just gets said, blasé, it's out there in the ether, everybody panics, there's an issue with the Water Board because of climate change. It's all part of this narrative that's getting driven, right? Now, can someone come on from the Water Board and we'll give them, I'll tell you what, give them 10 years, right? And they can go back 10 years and tell us the 10 issues that are multiplying every year because of climate change. Because they're just saying these things, blasé, they're pumping them out there with nothing to back them up. I can't see any issues caused to the Water Authority because of climate change. But they're allowed to just spew it out. And everybody, it's out there then, it's done, it's been said and it's done. More panic. I don't think it's right. Number 3, Andy, is why does Manx Radio feel the need to manipulate headlines? Because there was a Manx Radio online piece, and the headline said, "Massive support on Ireland for wind farms." That was the headline. But when you actually read the article, below it said, the minister hoped there would be massive support on Ireland for wind farms. So that's a manipulation of that headline, isn't it?
I'm trying to find the headline. When was that?
Oh, it was ages ago. I've sent 20 comments in about it, and not one of them's ever been read out. It was ages and ages ago. I think I've got a screenshot of it somewhere.
Okay.
All right, but it's just a question. This is all part of this alarmism that's getting driven. It's not right. And we need a referendum on this net zero because there's a big pot of money there, and there's a load of businessmen all ready to come and fire their fingers into that honey pot. The terminal over in Liverpool is a case in point. We need things to be open and on the table before we start spending multiple millions of pounds on nonsense. Do you know what I mean? So a referendum is required. And my last point is, Andy, every time I mention the fact we need a referendum, your default, you come back with the default, you've had your referendum, it's a general election. No, a general election is in no way, shape or form anywhere near a referendum on a specific subject, is it?
But we don't have a mechanism to call a referendum. I mean, the only way that you could hang on, just give me a moment. The only way that you could do something is if there were a vote of no confidence in the chief minister. And there's a mechanism in for that now. So you'd have to get enough politicians, basically, to shed doubt on the chief ministers. And bearing in mind, everybody's voted for this. Everybody within Comyn and everybody, as you say, has signed up to this. So the net zero and so they've done that. So my point about there isn't you can stand on Marine Drive and shout we want a referendum for 3 weeks, but it wouldn't get a referendum because there's no mechanism for a referendum. So I understand your frustrations, and bearing in mind, as I say, the skeets that's going round regarding the Liverpool landing stage this weekend. Something somewhere is not quite right, and what you say is that there's an amount of dissatisfaction with the government's net zero ambitions. But having said that, most of the Western world has signed up to this, Ian. So
and a lot of the Western world as well, Andy, are backtracking on it. Macron's backtracking on it. Germany are building coal fires. Sunak's backtracked on it.
And Norway has signed up to draw more fossil fuel as well. So, as you say,
well, there you go.
Yeah. So what do we do? How do we get this right? What do we do?
Well, considering, Andy, right, the total output. Apparently, the total output for the UK for the carbon emissions is 1% of all the carbon emissions. The Isle of Man's population classes us as more or less as a small town. Right, and I think roughly, if I can remember, I think there's about 900 classed as small towns in the UK. So we're a 900th of that 1%. And we're firing headlong into this. And I think we should just put them, mothball it, wait, see for better technologies to come forward. Technology is improving all the time. I read a thing yesterday about solar panels. There's a new way of producing solar panels, and they're more efficient and they're easier to get rid of. This could all be in 15, 20 years' time. So why do we, on this tiny little island, have to fire headlong into this? It's all virtue signalling nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
I found what you were talking about, by the way. It's April of this year. This huge support for wind power on the Isle of Man, despite the sea route concerns. Just have a listen to this.
I think there's a huge amount of support for offshore wind on the Isle of Man and in the UK. But it does have to go through a planning process, and it's important that Manx voices are heard, particularly when it comes to preserving our lifeline for passengers and freight to the UK.
That's Ewan Watterson, Speaker of the House of Keys. He was talking about this offshore wind farm, the Morecambe, Mona and Morgan wind farms.
Yeah, I don't get your point. I don't know what you mean.
Well, you said that there was a manipulation of the headline. The huge support for wind power on the Isle of Man was actually Ewan Watterson, the Speaker of the House of Keys, who said that.
But who wrote the headline for Manx Radio?
But that's what Ewan Watterson said.
No. The headline said massive support on Ireland.
No, it said huge support.
It never. I read it. The Manx Radio online news said massive support on Ireland for wind farms.
Okay, well,
and then underneath it, Andy, I've got the screenshot somewhere. I'll send you it.
Great.
And then underneath it said the minister hoped there would be massive support.
Great. Okay. Well, if you can send me that's fine.
And I sent a comment in at the time, and I said, "Who writes your headlines? Alf Cannon or Marjorie Kane? What's her name? Well, I don't know who it is. Who's head of the Climate Control Committee? Daphne Kane." I remember it, but it just got ignored. But it just seems like there's a manipulation of everything, and Alf Cannon at every opportunity mentions the climate emergency, and we need a referendum. We need 12 months. We need pros and cons, for and against. I think the meeting down in Port St Mary or Port Eden the other day was a case in point. Nobody knows anything, but we're going to fire headlong and spew millions and millions and millions of pounds into this. It's something that everybody needs to know. It needs to be a level playing field, and everybody needs to know the rules.
So what do you say then to those politicians who got elected 2 years ago with all these promises?
Well, the thing is, Andy, I could write the manifestos of 95% of them MHKs. You have the buzzwords: inclusivity, diversity, the alphabet people, the climate, healthcare and education. You know, that's just a generic thing that they post for your letterbox. Do you know what I mean? Now, if I'm in Douglas North, for argument's sake, and 3 of the MHKs of course I'm concerned about the climate, because they have to say they're concerned about the climate. Who do I vote? I've got nobody to vote for. To put my case across. If I vote for one of them HKs, that's me admitting that I want the climate change, all the climate change idiocy that's coming in. Do you get me? It needs to be a referendum. And I don't know why we haven't got a facility for a referendum. We didn't need to get rid of the Prime Minister in England to have a referendum on Brexit.
Yeah, but that had to be called by a Prime Minister.
Right. Well, else needs to call one then.
Well, I mean, at the moment, if you look in Keys and Legco, Ian, there's nobody there echoing what you say.
I know, exactly. Because they've all got their fingers in the pot, as far as I'm concerned. It'd be nice to see who's actually... It's annoying, Andy, to tell you. You know, because it just comes across as this is happening. There's nothing you can do about it, and we're going to fire headlong into it. We're already, like I said, 500 million quid in a hole for these wind farms. Where's that gone? It's all gone to consultants. It's all gone to R&D. It's just vanished. It's gone into the ether. Over 500,000 quid. Mm. You know, we've got. I heard there was a thing I read the other week. We're going to put air monitoring stations in Douglas. You know, there's a red flag. Can't put air monitoring stations down in London 2 years ago. Don't worry about it. It doesn't mean anything. Everybody's getting hammered for ULEZ charges now. Is that the next thing that's going to come? Is it going to cost you a tenner a day to drive around Douglas? It
could cost us that when we go to Liverpool, Ian, because they put it on the back burner, but they were talking about putting an ULEZ place in Liverpool, which would have included our ferry terminal, meaning that the moment we drove off the boat in Liverpool, we could have been landed with a £15 bill both ways.
There you go. I believe Patrick Moore, Dr. Patrick Moore, he was one of the founders of Greenpeace. He said he believes that this whole net zero agenda one day will be seen for the con that it is. It's a tax generating thing. You know what I mean? Well, there you go. You just nailed it. We drive off the boat and we get charged 15 quid. You know
by the way, you prompted me now, and I've found out because a former politician's got in touch with me, as you've been speaking, Ian. There is a Referendum Act on the Isle of Man, 1979. There's a Referendum Act, so we'll find out more about that.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for your time.
No, good to hear from you today.
Have you been invited to take part in the Household Income and Expenditure Survey? It's one of the most important surveys for our island because the information you provide is vital data for our island's financial planning. It helps us calculate our VAT revenue from the UK. Plus, it gives us a better understanding of the financial strains on residents, so we can support those who are struggling. If you've been invited, please take part. Visit gov.im/HIES for more information.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows letting rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
Hello, I'd like to rent a car for 3 days. Just something reasonable.
No problem at all. We've just got a few rules to make you aware of. You can't go off island, you can't smile in the car, you can't take any friends, it's £10,000 a day, and you'll need £1 million deposit up front. Any questions?
Renting a car doesn't need to be so difficult or expensive. With prices from just £50 per day, speak to Rex Rental Company or book online at rexrental.im.
Rex Rentals. I'm so glad to hear that.
There's a new way to Subway with 2 fantastic menus. Which will you go for? The all-new Subway series with 15 irresistible creations like the Big Bombay Sub, Great Goddess Salad, Emperor Wrap and Big Cheesesteak Sub Melt. Or create your own You pick the ingredients you want and build your own sub, salad or wrap the way you want it. There's a great mix of healthy and indulgent menu items available from Subway and ShopRite, Peel and Port Erin.
A bit of deja vu on agenda this week as the Bishop's vote is once more called into question, this time by the House of Keys, who narrowly voted to allow Laurie Hooper to introduce a private member's bill to remove the vote from the Bishop. Mr Hooper was accused of having malevolent purpose and being distracted by trivial matters when he should be getting on with the day job of fixing health services. We consider the latest debate on agenda this evening at 6 p.m. on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Is the vote of an unelected bishop any different to the votes of the other 8 democratically unaccountable LegCo members? Or is this needed to bring our parliament into the 21st century?
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Howard's on now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just listen to Wilf to start with. I think he slightly misread the paper. I hadn't seen it myself, but what he said was X number of metres, yards, or whatever he's using, south of the War Memorial. Well, that was the plan. South of the War Memorial. If you look a little bit, if you're looking at the War Memorial from the front out to sea, it'll be on your right-hand side.
Yeah.
And that there then, just a few yards up from that, are a set of steps, which goes down onto the beach. They did say that when they would be doing the work there with the wall, they'd be ultra careful around the War Memorial, and work would stop if there was any services, etc. on. From that point onwards, it would go from there over and to the Empress. But what crossed my mind, and I said to Chris, if they build this wall, are they going to leave gaps in it to allow people access to the promenade, to the shore?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, when they have a storm coming up, are they going to put storm boards in?
Yeah.
You can't cut off that entire block there just because a few stones are coming up 2 or 3 times a year, and they're going to put a 4-foot wall up. And as they quite rightly say, people in wheelchairs and whatnot, they're going to have their view blocked.
Well, it just strikes me, and sometimes I get obsessed with fun, but it's no fun for kids. No, children walking along the prom just simply will just see a wall there.
Exactly. And the other chap was saying about fastening boards to the railings. Those railings are only just about standing up now. They're not iron railings like they used to have.
Yeah.
They're like an aluminium, and they're rotten.
Well, they are. I mean, they're plastic covered, aren't they? But it's the middle of them that's rotted completely. That's
right.
rusted.
They were an aluminium with I think it's a powder coating on them, which they might be all right in the middle of a city somewhere, but down on an area like that on the shore with the salt and the corrosive factors of it, they don't last 5 minutes.
Well, they've lasted precisely 23 years, haven't they? Because they were put up for the millennium, for 2000.
I thought they were put there for the IRA scheme. When they built the tank out opposite the Queen's,
yeah.
And then I think are they the original ones? It's from the War Memorial. I must admit I think they are the original ones, and they were cast iron.
Right.
But those other ones at the other end, I'm sure they were put in for the IRA scheme because they renewed all the tarmac on the bitumen. But they're quite right on what a 4-foot wall is ludicrous, and it's not going to help any because, as several people have said, I've seen the stone building up there, and I've seen them removing it, and there's a perfectly good, solid concrete wall behind that. So why put another one on to add another 2 foot of stone in a few years' time? But are they going to leave access to the beach? Are they going to block it off entirely, or put baulks of timber in? But why don't they just try and take some of these experts they talk about putting groins in again? Because this seems to have happened so rapidly after the groins were removed that it's unbelievable. As I said the other day, I was brought up down that area, and I know the beach reasonably well. I'm not an expert by any means, but I have seen, and it changes on a regular basis. And I've seen stones up that high before, and they put excavators in, And the modern excavators now make just child's play to them. And they could dispose of that no problem at all. And they used to have the little 9-ton wagons down there. Nowadays they got these big wagons, and they can soon whip that away. If you only look at where on the harbour side of the Stone Bridge down on the quayside, where the river comes down, there's a salmon area, salmon resting patch, and that was there. It was filling up with stone, exactly the same way the beach is. And within the last 2 years, Stephen Carter was down there, and they were dredging it, and they were taking hundreds of thousands of tons of stone away. And now they're talking about using the hazardous waste under the new bypass in Ballasalla. They got thousands of tons of perfectly good waste there, as they call it, which can be tipped in without any hazardous need to store it for years.
I don't know about you, Howard, but the idea of this wall from the War Memorial to the Empress, and culminating with everything else that they've done, the fact that the prom's not really finished yet, the fact that we lost 65 odd parking spaces, we don't have festoon lights, it doesn't sound very ambitious, does it?
No. It's somebody sitting in an office with a simplistic answer to what is not really a problem. It's an inconvenience, it's nature doing what it does, and we'll never beat nature, but we can assist. And as I said, the Victorians built those sea walls along there, and they've stood the test of time, and they will. And what are they going to put up? An ugly wall. And, it's just not going to help the problem. The problem's not going to go away. That's the stupid part about it. It's only going to accumulate more stone.
All right, thanks, Howard.
Okay, take care.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Very interesting programme today, isn't it? I'm fascinated. It does make me wonder if the wall is extended upwards, will that in some distant future be explained away as rising sea levels, rather than actually just digging down the beach back to the level it was years ago?
It just prompts me to think of, and it's funny enough, a gentleman you were in the company of last week, Peter Carron, former MHK, who years ago, maybe 20-odd years ago, came up with a scheme to take Douglas Promenade out something like 300 or 400 yards, basically to reclaim that and to build a big sea wall. And he just said they should build some executive apartments on the create a second promenade and take it out into the sea. Do something ambitious.
Well, actually, Zeeland in Holland, they have those floating interlocking blocks that they float out, made of concrete, and then they sink it full of sand, and they've got rubber edges to them, and they form the wall. Actually, you can do it pretty quick. I don't know what it would cost, but the Dutch are amazing engineers. It would be interesting to find out what that would cost.
And I think you're right, the Dutch have, bearing in mind that since the start of the 20th century, the Dutch have performed wonders with the Zuiderzee and everything else. That the technology exists, the civil engineering's there. It just depends what you want to do, and whether or not a 3.5 foot wall is the answer to it, we don't know.
I know. It's and I wonder if you start tacking a wall onto a nice, chunky, Victorian, massive, great structure, will it survive? It's kind of tacked on the top, isn't it? It's not an integrated massive block, is it? It's an appendage. I just wonder how it will survive, because we all know what the storms can be like here.
It might just be nice to know what the thinking is behind it. Who are the experts, who are the consultants that said this is the way of doing it and this is what it's going to look like. But as it stands at the moment, I just can't get away from the fact, Julian, it's not going to be much fun to walk along, because suddenly the beauty of Douglas Promenade is that you are next to the sea, you are next to the beach. Literally, there's a fence, but you can see everything, and being within touching distance of nature is fantastic. And for the first time since the Victorians, there'll be a wall there.
No, I don't know. Maybe there'll be an increase in sales of shoes with high heels on them or something. People would just be all that bit taller to walking along.
But that wasn't why you called.
No. Ørsted are having their community information events this week on the proposed Moor Vannin offshore wind farm near Mackle. And Ian, earlier when he was speaking, was talking about, what is going on with this net zero. So from a business perspective, he's kind of spurred me on with this. It's probably worth doing a bit of due diligence and remembering what's going on in the wind industry at the moment. If you just take a look at the largest renewable energy exchange traded funds, or ETFs, which of course a lot of pensions and things, if people look into their pensions deeply, they'll probably find that however well they're doing are tied to these. You've got the big ones like iShares Global Clean Energy Fund. You've got S&P's Global Energy Index. They are all having recent massive losses between 30 and 50%. And on top of this, the big three credit rating agencies, which I've mentioned to you recently, got Moody's, Fitch and Standard & Poor, have all given Ørsted a negative outlook following losses. And last week, those losses were just approaching $6 billion. You've got two Ørsted top executives have been sacked last week. Ørsted have backed out of their proposed $10 billion New Jersey wind project called Ocean Wind. And they incurred a $300 million forfeiture guarantee payment, which they appear to be reneging on. And an angry mayor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, has vowed that Ørsted will be held accountable to its cancellation obligations. They're also backing out of their Utsira Nord Norwegian wind farm, which was thought to be a done deal. And Ørsted are citing supply chain issues and inflation for their woes.
Having said that, did you see the back end of last week, I think, that the UK government's rethought their bid price for electricity? It's gone up 66%.
Yes, but if you remember, Ørsted and Vattenfall were demanding an increase for the electricity they can charge to us of 250%. So if the government's upping it from 44 to 70%, they're still way short of what Ørsted reckons that they're going to get back. But when you look at that, there's still no bids. You've got the subsidies drying up because they're being told by governments that they're a mature energy source. And it's not helping that you've got the sight of 72 dead whales washing up on the New Jersey beaches opposite wind farm construction sites, which not really good optics for Ørsted. And then you've got the dock workers around the world have been striking because Ørsted haven't been honouring their labour agreements. And it's interesting, there's a news article a week or two ago. This is from the North Norfolk News, titled "Ørsted's Hornsea 3 Wind Farm Blamed for River Glaven Conservation Pollution." They've said that the soil that's been dug up to create the 33-mile-long cable trench for the Hornsea 3 wind farm has caused an ecological disaster, especially as the River Glaven had 8 sites of special scientific interest, including the breeding ground for the European eel. This professor, he's saying that it will take decades to recover from tipping tens of thousands of tons of silt into the once pristine river. So you've got to look at that and think, that's an absolute disaster. If you look up the River Glaven on YouTube, there's several, you've got the Norfolk Wildlife Trust videos, and you can see 30 feet through that water, so you can only imagine.
Will you be going to Laxey Glen Pavilion this afternoon to talk to Ørsted?
Well, I'm going to pop over and have a little look. It's interesting to note that Hornsea 3 that's caused that, one of the people in charge of governance of the Hornsea 3 wind farm project is John Galloway. I notice he's an experienced solicitor in major infrastructure projects and compulsory purchase litigation. I think he's worked for clients like Ørsted, National Grid and the Transport for London. And he is currently the development director for Moor Vannin here on the island.
Yeah, he was on Manx Radio last week.
Yeah, so hopefully he'll be able to shed light on, what's going on with the wind industry. Why are they showing 50% drop in the green energy funds? Why is Ørsted backing out of practically everything at the moment? Why are they having 55% drop in their share value?
I think, Julian, just as one of my often quoted mantras is the insurance company will in the end make the decision. I think that if the pension funds start getting hit, that's when push will come to shove.
Well, somebody's mentioned the phrase, is the wind industry a lame duck now? Because as the subsidies and the contracts for difference are now drying up, and they're now demanding 2.5 times the price that they were charging before, that kind of shows that they've been propped up massively.
But are they drying up? Are the CFDs actually drying up?
Yeah, it seems so. And then you've got the onshore. Rishi Sunak eased the planning application process recently, but there's been no planning application since he announced, I think it was over 200 oil and gas drilling permits, which kind of says to me that if you have your own gas or oil and you're not subject to world price gouging like has been caused, with the Ukraine war, and OPEC are now sort of got the keys again and driving the prices, perhaps it's kind of tacit agreement that if you've got your own oil or gas, you're not subject to world prices, and it's massively cheaper than renewable energy.
Okay. All right. Got to go, Julian. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
13 minutes to 1. I'm just taking a look at there's a particular website called Gridwatch in the UK, which gives you really up to date within 10 minutes, gives you where the UK electricity is coming from. It'd be terrific if we had one here, although the majority of it comes from Paul Rose. But in the UK at the moment, their electricity is 9% nuclear. This is what they're using, currently being generated. 9% nuclear, 43% is gas-powered power stations. 2.07% of biomass that they're burning wood pellets, and currently 20% is wind power at the moment, and 6% solar, 4% is coal at the moment. So gas and wind power, gas by a country mile, 43%, but 20% is wind power at the moment. If you're involved in the wind power industry, or if you're involved in government, or if you're in high finance, you'll know the metrics of all this. But down on the street, we the taxpayers, we the bill payers, know little more than we're told. So the more information that's out there, then the better. At the moment, we seem to be going for a wind farm, certainly a wind turbine, in the south of the Isle of Man, and possibly Ørsted building a wind farm offshore. Who knows?
It's good to talk. It's how we get things done. So when you apply for a personal loan from Black Horse, you'll get support from one of our relationship managers, who's there to talk you through your application. You could borrow up to £50,000 with up to 7 years to pay it back, and you could receive your money within 24 hours of approval. Ready to talk? Go to blackhorseoffshore.co.uk to request a call back today. Finance subject to status. Applicants must be 18 or over.
There's only one thing better than Everest double glazing, and that's their triple glazing. That's because their most thermal efficient windows work by keeping heat inside, helping reduce heating bills. And because we all need some energy efficient help right now, Everest are upgrading their new double glazing customers to triple glazing for free. Everest can't stop energy prices going through the roof, but they can through their windows. Minimum purchase and restrictions apply. See website for T's and C's.
Are you tired of looking at your old worn-out flooring? Then you need the red carpet treatment from Castle Carpets. With our expert fitting and friendly, reliable service, let us carpet your castle. Call 842-480 to arrange your free quotation island-wide.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
RS Promotions presents A Night of Disco Fever with Boney M, featuring Maisie Williams in the Royal Hall Villa Marina on Friday the 1st of December. Get your dancing shoes on for all the classic hits live, plus your 70s and 80s disco favourites from special guests Heatwave and an after-show DJ. Book now at villagaiety.com or on 600 555. The legendary Boney M featuring Maisie Williams, supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
As Gilg Nera.
Avashanvish. A Gilg, the Manx Gaelic. Chinian Amera, the mother tongue of Ellan Vannin, the Isle of Man. Avashanvish. You can catch up with more of Manx Radio's Manx language programmes in the weekly podcast Abershenrish. Say that again. Avashanvish. Shene, that's the one.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
9 minutes to 1. Bonzo's on there. Hi, Bonzo.
Hello. All right. Well, after the at least half an hour anti-climate action, anti-progress, anti-any change whatsoever broadcasts from Julian, non-Manx voice, by the way, from Croydon, in reply to Ian, and also from Ian, and I must admit it is just desperate. I despair completely. We need to be taking action on a variety of fronts, not only towards climate action, but also towards the way that things are run, which is actually exemplified by the Liverpool Ferry Terminal. And before anyone starts talking about my opinions on it, I actually recommended in social media and indeed to some Tynwald members that the project should be stopped at the point when it was going over 30 million. Because you could see from space it was going to be like the TSR-2 project in the 1960s, where the cost of this miracle, wonderful aeroplane that was going to do everything suddenly rocketed because two of the key partners, West Germany and Australia, dropped out of the project because of escalating costs. So the economies of scale reduced and the cost per unit went through the roof. And so Dennis Healey and the Labour government had no choice but to actually scrap the project when it was 75% of the way in, 75-80% of the way in. We've now gone into this sort of gambler's sunk cost fallacy. Keep playing the machine, I'll play through my losses and the jackpot will happen. To the point where we're now, I think you've heard tell of this, but I think the skeet is now, and it's more and more the skeet is that it will go over 100 million. It's just ridiculous. So I have every reason to shout at that. But then to take that and to say, oh, wind farms, oh, no, we can't have them doing that, it'll be expensive. I've seen Julian writing in social media saying that the wind farm project was going to cost £100 million, the MUA bill, which is absolute nonsense. As I've said on Friday, the cost is actually reducing. And the cost, if the route by Douglas is available, the Ballasalla bypass is complete on time, so that route of bringing in the turbines is available, then you're looking at £23 million or less, actually, for that. And that will then pay back in the amount of gas that it saves at Bullrose Power Station. That will pay back that capital cost within 4 years. So this is not wasteful. This is not wokery. Yes, I noted Ian's use of the term alphabet people to obviously refer to LGBT. People pretty damn offensive, that. But also his trope on Manx voices. Well, I wonder if he means me, because I'm a graduate at the Jane Crook Hall. So I don't need any lessons about Manxness from him, thank you very much. This typical saloon bar wisdom that you get from people who, Daily Mail readers, pro-Brexit, pro-anti-wokery, as they see it, or any form of sort of social progress. It's just absolutely silly.
So why do you think then? Just let me take you up on that, Bonzo. Why do you think some people? Why do you think this continues to be a divisive subject? Why do you think some people don't see the point of it?
Because it's pushed day after day after day after day on here and in other media by the likes of Julian, by the likes of Juan, by the likes of Ian, and others. It's just continual. And you say it's a programme of the expression of opinion. Yes, right, fine. People are entitled to their opinion, no matter how ill-informed or ill-reasoned. But when it's repeated continually, it takes on the illusion of fact. And that needs to be very much flagged up.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that. Thanks, Bonzo.
Okay, then, thanks. Bye.
Good to hear from you. Any thoughts on what we've been talking about today? Remember, I have no opinion. Mannin Line has no opinion. We are a channel for your peace. I trust you enough to make your own mind up. That's it. Going to be back tomorrow with another open line. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Stick around for Christy D from 1 to 3. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
WINT